Everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. I know I'm a little bit late on this video, did miss the Monday upload deadline here, but I figured it's Tuesday, close enough. May as well go ahead and get this out, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into the meat of the video here, talking about the Nexus Blitz cancellation. Now, if you were unaware, haven't been paying attention, Nexus Blitz, the alternate game mode that Riot were working on developing with the intention of making it a permanent game mode, was announced for cancellation back on Friday, right? We're citing poor numbers of engagement, basically just low audience engagement, as the reason for why Nexus Blitz would not be continuing development. They did say it would be coming back in the future to support events or as part of a featured game mode queue potentially, but that it would not become a permanent fixture in League of Legends. It wouldn't be a permanent game mode going forward. You would never be able to play Nexus Blitz whenever you wanted, unlike Summoner's Rift, Twisted Treeline, or ARAM. Now, on one hand, I'm glad that Nexus Blitz is gone. I don't think it made a whole lot of sense for Riot to sink development time into creating a brand new game mode or game map when you have current game modes that are kind of languishing in an underdeveloped hell. Twisted Treeline immediately springs to mind. That map has not been balanced or even touched for years at this point, and it's in a very bad spot development-wise. And a lot of that time and energy that went into Nexus Blitz, which is a potential permanent game mode, could have gone to Twisted Treeline, an actual permanent game mode. So in that regard, it didn't make sense to sink development time into that, especially when you're already outspoken about your desire to have Summoner's Rift as the de facto map. Why are you trying to create other permanent maps when you have Summoner's Rift existing right now and you're saying everyone should be playing Summoner's Rift? It sort of raised the question of why even try. On the other hand, though, its cancellation is pretty curious. Nexus Blitz still had a lot of supporters and a lot of interest behind it, so it wasn't like it was an unpopular game mode. And in general, too, I kind of get why Nexus Blitz would have existed in the first place. On one hand, it does make sense because it is sort of an alternate casual game mode. So casual game mode already exists in the form of ARAM, but ARAM is random. You don't get to pick the champion. It's one map. There's a limit to the number of strategies you can really employ on an ARAM map at any given day. Whereas Nexus Blitz was a casual game mode that still had randomness, but it wasn't completely random. So even if I don't know what events are going to pop up or what my teammates are likely to play, at the very least, I know that I will be able to play Garen, let's say, or failing that if he gets banned, one of my other preferred champions. So in that regard, it did make a lot of sense to develop Nexus Blitz and to try and create it as another permanent game mode, because it is a bit of an alternative to ARAM, and it's a bit more of a casual game mode, and it's a bit more casual friendly as well, because you don't have to worry so much about the complete balance, because you know that things are going to be randomly balanced in that game mode. And in general, there are a bunch of issues with it, I think. So, and the other thing is, you already spent a lot of development time on Nexus Blitz. Like, realistically, the only thing Nexus Blitz really needed was permanent art assets. Everything else was fine. The champions were more or less balanced, shall we say. The game modes, I thought, were more or less balanced, as were the event rewards. I think that because a lot of it was random, it is sort of like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. And the game mode was already guaranteed to end at 20 minutes, which is going to make it great for casual play. So, developmentally, it was essentially done. All it was really going to need is art assets. So creating the map that isn't just reskinned Summoner's Rift stuff, and then making it so that the events are actually using regular assets and not necessarily weirder ones. So I think there's plenty of options, therefore, that you could have used to really get this done. I mean, all it needed was art, essentially. And the other thing is, I'm kind of wondering what the team is going to be working on that isn't Nexus Blitz at this point. I think it's unrealistic to assume that they'll start development on another new game mode, because if you killed Nexus Blitz, why would you bother trying to create another new alternate game mode when you've already kind of said with this, well, alternate game modes don't work? So then what is the team going to be doing? You're going to retask them to do something. The question is, what? And I think this all comes down to Riot are very happy with the sort of cancel culture, I guess you could say they have, which is that Riot are not afraid to kill something when they feel like it's not panning out, which is good and bad. It does mean that Riot have a very low rate of releasing failures, because they usually don't have a problem with pulling the plug on something that just isn't really panning out. But on the other hand, it does mean that ideas that I think could have worked and could have had merit are getting sort of choked out and not being expanded on enough, because Riot are trying to say, well, it's just not there. And I don't exactly know where this stems from, but it does feel like a lot of it is Riot is trying to capture lightning in a bottle. for the second time, because League of Legends obviously was that in the first place. Very popular game, really exploded onto the market. But I think it's unreasonable for them to assume that everything they release, every alternate game mode, is going to be as popular as Summoner's Rift, or even as Twisted Treeline, because that's at least been around for a while. It's sort of the thing where you should release it, you should at least try to keep it around for longer periods of time, as opposed to just during events where players are spamming as many games of it as possible during the event because they're trying to get all the quests done, or just because it's the only opportunity they have to play the game, and they burn themselves out. So of course you're not going to have as much interaction towards the end because, well, I'm kind of done playing the game at this point. I played it literally all last week. I don't feel like playing it anymore, or I got all my quests done, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot of reason to keep playing this game mode when there are other things I could be doing on Summoner's Rift. In that regard, it is a bit faulty data, and it does feel weird that they'd start pulling low audience interaction when you haven't even left Nexus Blitz open for long periods of time. If Nexus Blitz was open for a month, without an event even, but just open for a month, and Riot looked at the numbers there, I would assume we'd see a very different story, and I would assume that we'd see very different levels of engagement than we did during the event, and I think that would give Riot maybe a better picture on exactly how much people actually like it, as opposed to the current situation where it was only available during the events. So, to me, it does feel like Riot can and should be focusing more on not necessarily killing things immediately, giving them time to grow. And I think I've had this problem with their balancing too, in that if something looks like it's a problem, they immediately try to balance it out of the game or into the game. So if something releases very weak, such as in the case of Ornn's release, they gave him so many buffs, patch after patch after patch, without giving players time to learn to play the champion, so that by the time they finally did, well, turns out Ornn was in a completely ridiculous spot. Because he got so many buffs. Conversely, if something releases and it's too strong, Riot have a chance to nerf, and then over-nerf it, and then it's very, very weak. And it does feel like it's a similar thing for Nexus Blitz, where Riot were a little bit more principled this time around than they usually are, but at the end of the day, we're still really pulled the trigger too early on Nexus Blitz's long-term viability. And again, I don't know what this alternate map team is going to be doing with their time. Clearly, they're not spending on Twisted Treeline, even though they probably should. But so if that's the case, then what are you actually going to be dumping your time into? And I think that it would make sense to bring back Nexus Blitz. Leave it up for maybe a month. Give players a chance to actually play it as they would a regular permanent game mode, instead of being as part of a test, and see where you end up there, because I think that the story you'll get is very different. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on this whole Nexus Blitz cancellation fiasco thing. Let me know what your comments are down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts if you like Nexus Blitz, if you want it to come back, or if you think, nah, it did deserve to be removed from the game. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing. I put a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well, and if you're looking for Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, which is linked down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.